Ugh, looks terrible. Why does it look so bad in here? Come on, man. This didn't look too bad last week. Why is it bad now? Ugh. Whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. One thing I have learned is that I should not do my makeup while listening to the White Stripes because this happens. But you should listen to the White Stripes at all times. This has been a PSA. Thank you for listening. So in the video I uploaded earlier this week, I talked about some of the times that I've been fired from jobs, as well as times where I just quit because they were terrible. In that video I spoke about a time where I had the owner of a store phone my house phone with the Wii remote every day until I handed in my notice. And you guys have actually told me that that is actually a form of dismissal in the UK. I said in the video that, you know, because I technically quit, you know, I couldn't really say it was wrongful dismissal. But just for anyone who might be interested, a couple of you guys put me onto the term constructive dismissal. Now this didn't actually apply in my case because it does say here for citizens advice in the UK, you can only usually claim constructive dismissal if you're classed as an employee and have worked for your employer for at least 2 years. I didn't work there for 2 years. But if you ever feel like you're being forced out of a job, if you feel like your boss is putting you in situations where the job is just unbearable and you have no choice but to leave, look into constructive dismissal if you live in the UK. I don't know what it's like in other countries. But yeah, thank you for letting me know that. Obviously, again, I was 16. I didn't know any better, so they got away with it. But yeah, a good term to have in your head. Someone's doing construction work now! Why? It's always bad news when a van with a ladder on top turns up. Drama in the street. I must know about it. So let's talk about some other jobs that I've had. I worked in a department store, specifically the cafe. And I spoke about this in my book, because I wrote a book, that was a thing. Very well known for concessions and good lighting. not like store lighting, like lamps and things like that. They wanted to get rid of their restaurants because they were kind of a bit like fuddy-duddy, and they attracted an elderly clientele, and they wanted to turn them into cafes, like cool hip cafes. And I was a member of the very first team that they got in, so I started there pretty much from the ground up. Started working 20 hours a week. That quickly went up to 30 hours a week, then 35 hours a week, then 40 hours a week, then 50 hours a week, then around 60 hours a week sometimes. I think I started there when I was like, oh, how old would I have been? Hang on. So I would have been 18 going on 19, and I think I left when I was 20. So yeah, 2 years I was there. I want to talk about one of the managers in a completely different video. The woman who ran the store but hated the cafe part. The cafe part was very looked down upon by people who had worked there for a long time. They kind of felt like, oh, what's this new thing attached to our department store? You know. But basically, I'm not going to say that I carried the cafe, but I will say I have had back problems ever since. I will say that working there was around the time that I was really focusing on strengthening the asshole part of my personality. I wasn't great with customers. It's hard to be nice when every customer is a Karen. It's hard. I'm not good at taking people's crap. I never have been. But basically, I was very good at my job, in my opinion, anyway. It's kind of like at school. I was very book smart and I got the grades, but I was an arrogant little shit. And it annoyed everyone in the higher ups because they needed me, because I was the only one who knew how to do most of the jobs there. Like whenever the supervisor of the cafe wasn't in, I pretty much took over the supervisor role. Not for the supervisor pay, of course, but they knew that they were kind of screwed without me, but they also really didn't like me, and I don't really blame them. But now and again, management would try these weird little things, these weird little flexes to try and make me remember that my job is my life. They tried to make me very scared of being fired, and it worked quite a few times. There was this one time specifically, I think I talked about this somewhere else, but the cafe usually closed at, I think it was about 5:30 or 5:45. So then by 6 p.m, everyone was out, like every customer was gone, and you could bring in the tables, bring in the chairs, you know, tidy up, pack down for the night, blah, blah, blah. Come back in at 7:30 again the next morning. But everyone would be out in time for the department store to be closed. This particular incident was around Christmas, and my hometown, Basildon, Bas Vegas, had the annual turning on Christmas lights evening. It's every like mid-sized town has one of those in the UK, right? Everyone just gathers to see people from the local theatres turn on the lights. And unbeknownst to everyone working that day, the department store decided that they were gonna stay open late. Not the store, the cafe, just the cafe. Remember I told you the cafe was very looked down upon. So the store closed, everyone went home except for the managers of the store because they wanted to keep the cafe open. Who was the only person on shift when everything was supposed to close? Fucking muggins over here. I've been working since early that morning and I was told at last minute, you know, you can close as soon as every customer has gone, but you must keep the doors open and if another customer comes in, you must serve them. What's that short notice about? That can't be right, surely. But I did as I was told, like a good little subservient dog, and 5:30 rolled around and I'm thinking, okay, people are clearing out like normal, this is great. I'll start tidying some things away. Nope. Customers, are you open? Yes, please come on in and fuck with my day. And then they would leave and then more people would come in and more people would come in. And then it rolled around to about 10 past, 6:15. By this point, my family were expecting me home. I wasn't able to tell my family that I was working late, so they were naturally getting quite worried. And as the night drew in, as it got darker and it got closer to the Christmas lights being turned on in the town, more and more people came in. And it was so stressful, I started crying. It only got to about an hour after my shift was supposed to be over, but that's not the point. Overtime is great when it's on your own terms, right? But as soon as there was a little bit of clear air, like a second of clear air where there were no customers to be served, I quickly just got the chairs and tables in, I locked the doors and I pelted it upstairs to get to my locker and get my stuff and get the fuck out of there. Not really pay much attention to the usual like shutdown of the cafe, like the cleaning, the wiping down of the surfaces, because I was the one coming in the next morning at 7:30 in the morning. I was the one coming in. I closed and I was going to open like a subservient little dog. The next morning, I come in fully expecting to, you know, clean the things that I didn't have the time to clean up the night before. And as I'm switching all the ovens, all the tills, starting up the coffee machines, wiping down surfaces, my supervisor comes down from upstairs in the department store down to the cafe. Didn't know she was going to be in that early. She said to me, Emma, drop everything you're doing and you need to come upstairs now. And I said, okay, what's all this about? She went, just come upstairs. I was like, oh, fuck, what's this? I got pulled into the operation manager's office with my supervisor next to him. I sit opposite them and the operations manager, he says, Emma, why do you think we've pulled you in here? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I had a suspicion it was about, you know, how untidy it was, but surely they weren't going to give me shit for this, right? The operations manager sits back in his seat and he's got next to him a pile of photographs that he has taken on his camera. I don't know if it's like a disposable camera or a little fucking Olympus pen or something. I don't know. But they were printed out. How the fuck do you even print these pictures out like overnight or early in the morning? Who has the time to do that? He picks these photos up and just slides them across the desk. And they are pictures of like literally crumbs on the counters. I think there was like a ketchup stain and I think there were a couple of like ripped open sugar packets on the little, you know, where you pick up your sugars and stirrers and things like that. There were pictures just of that crap. And he said, so what do you make of this? I was like, oh my God. I'm at this point so frazzled by this whole situation, like the fucking audacity, and also being in trouble. I didn't have a good response to being in trouble. I think I just started crying, which was a terrible thing. I wouldn't cry now. Do you know what I do now? Oh, actually, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'll tell you that in a minute. I just started crying. I was just like, you know, I wanted to go home. It was way past my time. And the manager just said, well, you know, you can't leave the cafe like this. You cannot leave it. And I was like, I was the one coming in the next morning. And he looked at me like I'd spoken back at him with like knives out of my mouth or something. You know, like, how dare you speak back to me? It was absolute bullshit. He then said, okay, well, we're going to have to do a written disciplinary for this. Like, I knew that I wasn't liked, but they weren't trying to fire me. They weren't trying to get rid of me. They fucking needed me. So what was the point of all of this? It was just more bullshit, more people throwing their weight around. So I got a written disciplinary for that. It got filed away. I don't think I lasted much longer after that. It was not a nice experience being treated like that. So what would I do now then? What would I do differently? First off, if overtime has not been agreed, and it hasn't been put on your rota, and you haven't been asked in advance to stay behind, as soon as your shift is up, I would just be fucking out of there. I know you can't leave your employers in the lurch, right? But you're only contracted to do certain hours. And people on the shop floor of this department store, if they did it, they would have got away with it like no problem. These like 55-year-old women who have been there 20 years, you know, if they were like, right, no, it says 5:30, I'm leaving at 5:30, and there was like a massive queue, that would have been fine. And that's what I would have done. They left me on my own in there. Anything could have happened. They expected me to close down and open the next morning, and then they had the nerve to pick up on all the things I didn't do because I wanted to go home to my family. I wouldn't have agreed to have stayed in the first place. However, in a situation where I did agree to stay, if the amount of cleaning that I had done was not to their liking, I would have simply said it was beyond my capabilities as the sole person in that cafe. And I'd probably say I would also not like this situation to happen again. So from now on, I would not be taking on overtime at such short notice without at least 48 hours notice ahead of time. I think I also would have gone home and looked at the legalities of being left there on my own and then being asked to work at such short notice, whether it's actually legal or not, and I would have quoted it back at them. I used to be so afraid of being fired at that job because I used to have this fear of like, you know, if you get fired from something and then you apply for your next job and there's references and then they ask for a reference and then the last place was the one you were fired from, then the next employer's not going to take you on and you're never going to get another job and you're never going to earn money. This would literally cycle in my head any time where I felt like I'd done something wrong. And my dad would always tell me, it's just a job. If you hate it so much, just quit. And I was like, I can't quit. I can't quit my job. But you know what? You know, I'm not saying this from a position of privilege, like, you know, oh, well now that I'm a freelancer, I think even if I were to still be in a full-time position, working in hospitality, I would remember to try and separate my personal and professional life and set distinct boundaries for my own mental health. And I would be more aware of my contract, I'd be more aware of the legalities of my employment. Anyway, this has gone on too long. I was going to tell another story, but this story went on too long. So I'll be making a part 3 because part 3 will actually include a job I really did actually get dismissed from. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time guys, I shall catch you later.